All right. I know normally we wait a couple of minutes here to get started, but I want to go ahead because if you've attended a Tech Tips before, you've probably seen me before and know that I'm a talker. So let me get started on the introduction so that we can get people in here and then we'll get started with the video. So today I have the pleasure of introducing Pat McGinnis, who is going to be your presenter today for Servers 101. Personally, Pat has taught me basically everything I know about servers. When I was a very new to technology, newly hired fit employee, Pat and I worked together on a very large server project, and he, I said, I don't really know anything about servers, and they said, don't worry, Pat will tell you, and he did. And Pat has taught me and so many of our fellow colleagues here at Fit a wealth of knowledge, so I'm very excited for him to be able to share that with you today. Pat, like myself, can't be a talker, so wisely, the Tech Tips Committee has decided to encourage us to pre-record, so I will be playing a video, but Pat is here to answer questions. So I want to leave a little bit of time here so that we got maybe a couple minutes at the end for any live questions, but as we're going through, please remember to put questions in the chat and we'll answer as we go along, as well as we will be dropping a survey link and sharing this recording with all of you in a follow-up email next week. So if you didn't catch some information, don't worry, this is being recorded. You can always play it back. And yeah, well, without further delay, let me go ahead and get things started here. And also, if you don't hear the sound, please yell in the chat. I believe I've shared the video the correct way, but we'll see.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's Fit Tech Tips. My name is Pat McGinnis. I am the Senior Technology Strategist here at Fit Technologies, and today we're going to be talking about Servers 101, how servers power your organization. This is going to be a plain English guide to the technology that quietly runs your everyday business. Most people think of laptops or desktops or thin clients that sit right in front of them is work and is the business. But in reality, the business engine usually lives somewhere completely else, in a far distant corner of the universe or on a server rack quietly humming away directly behind someone's desk. Today is going to take that invisible layer and make it more visible, hopefully with as little jargon as possible. So let's jump right in. Though you may not know it, you use servers all day long. The laptop and desktop that I mentioned is often just the doorway to work. The heavy lifting and orchestration of this work happens behind the scenes on servers, whether it be in a closet, a server room, a data center via a cloud platform such as Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, or Google Workspace. But there's a lot of different types of servers as well and services that they offer. We'll use some examples here. We have logon servers. Those are meant for authentication and authorization. Authentication is verifying that you are who you say you are, and authorization is confirming that you have the right to access specific assets. You have file servers that store and share data to you, and those are permissions based. And again, that goes back to the authentication and authorization via the logon server. You also have your storage servers, things that are called SAN, or storage area network. Massive amounts of data stored on these servers so that they can be either providing data or receiving data, whether it be something for a file server or maybe even for backups. You have email servers, and those are routing and storing email, mailbox preferences, filtering spam, and quarantining malware. So those are all in use pretty much all day, every day, because I know I get about 600 emails a week, and sometimes that's light work. Then we have print servers. Those are hosting printers. They are queuing, releasing, and sometimes holding print jobs. So say you are in a regulated industry, say healthcare or maybe legal, and you can't have someone walking up to a printer and finding what you just printed out. You're holding that document until you are physically present to hit the print button on the device so that you can receive it and be the only one to have access to that particular document. And then you have your app servers, and they are hosting critical line of business applications and also client access to those applications. It could be something like QuickBooks, for instance. I know a lot of us are familiar with that. You have an application on your desktop and it needs to talk to the files that may be sitting on that application server or maybe on a file server, and they are just hosting it so that your application on your device can actually function the way it is meant to access that data. And then you have remote servers that are meant for brokering, hosting, and licensing, as well as authenticating remote workforce users to virtualized desktops. All of this happens all day, every day across the world, and not a lot of people realize it. Then you have highly specialized servers, things like building control units or building management servers that basically allow individuals to monitor and manage different assets within the organization autonomously. You have HVAC servers so that you can set the temperature in different zones in a building. So your operations team can do that. You have badging servers that allow people to access the building itself as well as dedicated areas through permissions escalations and say, I need to access the data center. I can't go in there if I am an intern, but if I'm a data engineer, I might have access to that. Then you have VoIP servers or voice over IP for localized phone systems or cloud systems. Think of like Microsoft Teams. That's not just running on a server in your data center. It is running in Microsoft's data center or Zoom's data center. And there are copious amounts of servers in the background that are running all of those features. Right now, if I were on Teams, my video and my audio would be transformed through my microphone and my camera, sent to, Virginia, if you will, 700 miles from here, processed and sent back to whoever it was that I was in the conference room with, and it all comes through perfectly clear. Next up, let's talk about what exactly a server is and go from there. So what exactly is a server? A server is not just a bigger PC. It is designed to service and serve numerous users and devices at the same time. And also, it is built for uptime and control. You can't have a server going offline in the middle of a workday and think that everything is going to continue to function as necessary. A server is a specialized computer that provides services, resources, and information to a lot of different devices and users at the same time. You're not going to get that with a laptop or desktop. Employees see the screen and the applications, their general desktop interface, but servers are often doing the preparation, storage, authentication, authorization, and delivery of these services behind the scenes. Think of a kitchen in a restaurant. You have a bunch of staff in the kitchen and customers on the dining room floor. The dining room is polished in appearance, but in the kitchen, mayhem is breaking out. You have the chef and other staff constantly processing, organizing, and prioritizing and the sending of orders from the customers to make sure that the restaurant functions and the patrons get what they need. Next up, let's talk about server versus end user devices and the differences between the two. Both end user devices and servers are computers, but they're purpose-built for entirely different functions. A laptop serves one person. A server provides shared business capabilities to many people and different systems at the same time. A laptop or a desktop you can consider to be consumers of service, and servers are the providers of those services. A laptop or a desktop services one person and has personal applications and data. It can be put to sleep or shut down at any time, and users are normally local to the device. Servers, on the other side, service many users in different systems. They provide shared services and they're expected to run 24/7, 365, what is called 5 nines or 99.999% uptime. That's 5 minutes and 15 seconds per year of downtime. That's a couple of reboots after patching of a device. And then also centralized control and security. You can't just walk up to a server and start messing with it. There should be access controls and security built around that, whether that be hardening at the device, a locked bezel, as well as access to the room that the system sits in, and then access to the power that provides electricity to the device. A personal device, think of it like a car. It and a server is more of like a public transit system, like a bus. The car services you or one person as needed. The bus, on the other hand, services many people across a wide area consistently and continuously. Next up, let's talk about what servers look like. A server can be a physical appliance. A virtual server or virtual servers can sit inside of a larger physical host or a cloud platform for that matter. The user experience when they are engaging with these services across those different types of servers will most likely be identical either way. Physical servers you can reach out and touch. Don't do that, by the way. Physical servers can look like the rack mount and blade servers that are actually in the background of this slide. Then there are tower servers. Tower servers, think of like consumer desktops, except expand the dimensions 2x in all directions and add a bunch of hard drives and flashing lights, as well as loud noise from the fans. They come with enterprise grade processors, storage, RAM, as well as multiple network cards and redundant power supplies. The list goes on. Virtual servers, on the other hand, can be hosted, again, on local servers or cloud platforms, and they act the same as a physical server. However, where a physical server can only host its own services, you can have those numerous different virtual machines on a physical host servicing multiple different functions. So it is an improvement for business operations and efficiency. Rather than having 15 different physical servers all locked into individual functions, you could have one large physical server that is hosting all of those different functions across different virtual servers. Not directly related to servers, but network hardware provides services for connectivity and maintaining traffic flow. So it is servicing as a server would, but it is not technically considered to be a server. But in my eyes, because it's providing service, it's adjacent. That being said, some servers are things that you can reach out and touch. Again, please don't. And others are virtual machines you just will never end up seeing. Now let's talk about the services servers actually provide. Often when someone says the server is down, they actually are saying the service is unavailable. Though sometimes, yes, the server itself is actually down. The server matters because it hosts business capabilities. The servers you can think of like digital utility providers. I touched on this a little bit earlier. Servers provide things like logins, authentication and authorization services, file shares, print services, as well as digital faxing, email, line of business applications like accounting, that QuickBooks that I mentioned, ERP, CRM, design, EHR for healthcare organizations, collaboration tools, database access and functions. You also have security monitoring and management tools for making sure that everything stays nice and safe and secure. Policies and preferences, backups, voice over IP and teleconferencing. The service is what the business actually depends on. It just happens that the server is providing those services. Hardware matters, but business value, that comes from the roles that the server themselves play. Protecting the data, delivering the access that is necessary, running the applications and providing access to them, and keeping the wheels in motion so that work can progress. Now let's talk about if you can imagine what an office would be like without servers. Now, I know I said, can you imagine what it would be like without servers? But in reality, chances are everyone watching has experienced a moment of the server is down or the service is unavailable in one form or another. Nonetheless, let's talk. What breaks when that invisible layer is unavailable? No shares. Your teams can't access their documents. You have users who are locked out because you can't log in. The line of business applications that you're used to functioning on, whether it's on a local device and you're trying to access resources that are in the environment that require authentication, those are down. Or you might try to log in to access those applications, and you can't because, again, the logins are down. You can't print. Jobs will fail or queue indefinitely, or you are unable to initiate a print hold. Then you have a lack of possible backups. If there is a backup server in the environment taking backups of assets, that has the potential of being down as well, which makes recovery uncertain. And then remote access would be down. So if you have a hybrid environment where you have work from home staff that are attempting to remote into the environment, that's not possible because, again, logins are down or logins are down. Lack of servers, or I guess access to them, means staff are waiting, customers are impacted, billing delays occur, productivity stops, or production stops rather. And then you can run into compliance risks. Remove servers and you have a bunch of islanded and independent devices with no service connectivity beyond the available assets or services that the device themselves provide. Servers don't just support IT, they support operations. Now let's look at a high-level flowchart for just one facet of server service. Let's walk through a super simplified server service flowchart for opening a file or a shared file. Say my boss sent me a message and asked me to check out a new proposal document on a local file share or in SharePoint. I want to open the document, so I locate it and I click it. This initiates a request from my laptop across the network to the either local file server or to the SharePoint server, and it reaches out and confirms that I am authenticated first. My session is authenticated so that I am actually allowed to be in the environment, and then it authenticates my account to confirm that I actually have permission to access that particular resource. And finally, I'm granted access to that proposal document, and that's all just from one single click. Servers in general across the spectrum can service thousands of different functions, and this is just a single one, a single instance. Now extrapolate that to large organizations with thousands of users, tens of thousands, millions of files, and different systems interconnected. It gets pretty wild. Now let's talk about physical versus virtual servers. Physical versus virtual servers. I've touched on it a little bit, but let's expand. Let's start off with an analogy. You have one physical building with multiple separate apartments. A virtual server thinks that it's its own home and it is its own physical server, but in reality, the underlying hardware is shared. Virtual servers are possible because of something called hypervisors. Hypervisors are the intermediary layer between the physical server hardware and guest operating systems, multiple of them. And it divides and allocates resources like CPU, memory, and storage across independent systems so that they can all share one physical server or host. Rather than having individual physical servers that handle file shares, print services, database services, logon services, a single powerful physical server can host all of them, and it shrinks the physical footprint of your local infrastructure, and it expands the overall efficiency of the associated systems, as well as it assists with faster recovery times. It also reduces administrative burden and operational expenditures associated with things like electricity, as well as cooling and hardware maintenance and support costs. Now, we've talked a lot about local and virtual servers, but what about the cloud? Let's touch on that. So what about the cloud? The cloud doesn't eliminate servers. It changes ownership, location, cost model, and management responsibilities. And in reality, many companies actually use a hybrid mix between on-premises servers and cloud servers and workloads or cloud services. There are different types of services available. Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services or AWS, and Google Workspace all run via the as a service model. There is infrastructure as a service, like Azure Virtual Machines, platform as a service, like database workloads, and then software as a service. think Microsoft 365. You may hear the phrase going serverless or gone serverless, and that really means the removal and decommissioning of local server infrastructure and transitioning all of that locally hosted services to cloud hosted providers. This can look like migrating user accounts from Active Directory to Microsoft Entra, local file shares to SharePoint and OneDrive, or things like voice systems, so voice over IP into Microsoft Teams. Now, let's say that you have a service that cannot go to the cloud, whether it be because it has some sort of local access requirement, or possibly the vendor does not offer a cloud service, or possibly doesn't even support virtualization, or even extremely low latency applications that are very time sensitive. Those things would be ideal situations for hybrid environments. You migrate all of your supporting systems to the cloud, and then you take the systems that are required to remain on site, migrate them to local, trimmed down, and modernized versions, and it improves both sides of the cloud and local equation. Now I want to talk to you guys about why servers matter for security. Why do servers matter for security? This is a short but important slide that ties back to business risk. Servers enforce identity. They store sensitive data. They support backups and collect security logs. Good server hygiene supports a large portion of an organization's overall security posture. Servers handle things like identity. Who are you? The authentication piece. Permissions. What can you access? The authorization piece. Then you have updates. Are systems being patched? Device management. Monitoring. Is something suspicious happening? Backups. Can we recover if something were to happen? And policies. Are rules being enforced? Servers' security functions don't remove all risk, but having the management of all of these assets centralized allows organizations to have a stronger foundation for prevention, detection, and recovery. Now let's talk about the investment into servers. As business owners, I'm sure this slide comes across as a no-brainer or common sense. However, server investment is about more than just investing in new hardware. It's about reliability, productivity, risk reduction, compliance, and business continuity. Each of the different server implementation paths comes with their own strengths and caveats. Invest in local infrastructure and you lock yourself into CapEx for hardware purchases, warranty and support contracts, finite device life cycles, utility costs for electrical and cooling, operating system and user access licensing, as well as the potential for hardware failure. However, if you lose connectivity to the public internet, you can continue local operations until the service is restored. On the flip side, invest in cloud only and you lower your upfront CapEx costs by moving your organization to an OpEx model of service consumption through subscriptions to web services. You lower your CapEx cost, but you lock into an OpEx costing model in perpetuity. Invest in a hybrid configuration, on the other hand, and you carry over portions of the risks and rewards from both of those options. Next up, let's discuss symptoms of server-related issues. Users experience symptoms. IT investigates causes. Many frustrating issues connect back to things like capacity, network, authentication, storage, poorly optimized or aging infrastructure. Slow systems and file access, logon failures, and storage warnings. These aren't always end user device issues. These can be indicators of aging, outdated, or poorly optimized servers. Not all, but most computer problems have some element of infrastructure behind them. Also, something to note here. This conversation that we're having right now, this is your sign to get clarity on the status of your infrastructure. so you can map out the modernization of these assets and associated services, either directly or with someone like us here at Fit Technologies. Speaking of, if you're interested, or maybe you don't even know where to start, please don't hesitate to reach out because this is our bread and butter. We love doing this and we love shining the light on these kind of things to help you and everyone else progress. As we begin to bookend today's session, let's quickly touch on what environment might be right for you. As mentioned previously, few environments are purely one thing, not just local, not just cloud, a mix or hybrid. Most organizations blend local systems, cloud platforms, software as a service tools, and remote access. The design challenge is making it dependable and secure. The goal is the same regardless of what path you decide to go down, and that is secure, reliable access to the services your organization and your people need. Again, please reach out if you are interested or need guidance. Finally, let's talk takeaways. Servers matter because they host business capabilities. The goal of excellent IT strategy is to make those capabilities secure, resilient, and aligned with your business's needs. So as we wrap our session today, let's highlight 3 key takeaways. 1, servers quietly power nearly everything in daily business, as evident by the last 25, 30 minutes of conversation we've been having. To that point, servers provide shared services, security, and centralized control. And finally, strong server strategy supports reliability, recovery, and growth. Without a strong strategy, you will be left behind, essentially. Servers may be invisible to the everyday employee, but they are one of the foundations for the modern business. Thank you all for sticking around to the end of my presentation of Servers 101. I believe we have a few minutes for questions, so if anyone would like to discuss anything they saw or heard today, something that sparked a thought or an idea, or questions, comments, concerns, reactions, decisions, we'll take them all. Thanks so much.
Here we go. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much, Pat. That was awesome. And I know a lot of information all at once. Um, I do see that there was a question in the chat. And gotcha. Okay. Pat already grabbed it. Do we have any other questions?
Don't be shy. Last 30 minutes we're drinking from a fire hose, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Well, if we don't have any questions, that's totally fine. You can always email them, reach out to your client engagement manager if you are interested in potentially optimizing your environment and your infrastructure. If you aren't sure what kind of infrastructure you have, you can also reach out to your service delivery team to help point you in the right direction. So we really appreciate all of your time today, and we will see you next month. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much.